On YouTube, it's the brain of the mainframe here, Nile Scala, with another exciting episode of Pop XP Presents Crowdfunding Comics. And joining me, as usual, is the most amazing Frank Amazing there ever is and there ever will be, Mr. Frank Amazing. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. As you know, we were struck by the tropical storm, whatever you call it, and we finally are all starting to get our power back.
Yes. And more importantly, get back into promoting comics, talking comics, everything Pop XP in the world.
Yes, and everything that is wonderfully poppable. So to start off our first show tonight, we want to welcome Mr. Fresherluke. Fresherluke, how we doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me on the show. This is going to be epic.
Epic show, man. Thanks for coming on. You got a book?
I do have a book. How did you know?
I don't know, man. We like books. Bring them in. Let's read them. I don't know.
Yes, I do have a book.
You do have a book.
Hello, Frank, and how's it going? Thanks for
Good. How are you?
Man. How are you?
Good.
Right,
yeah. So yeah, I got a book. What do you want to know about it?
Well, first, we want to know about you. We want to dive deep into what's fresh about Fresherluke. Give us tell us about you, man. How did you get into comics? Were you a wee little kid? Was it something you discovered in college? Are you in it for the money and the cars and the women or the men, whatever you like?
Yes.
All the above.
So you want me to give you, I guess, my origin story, my backstory?
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm Fresherluke. I was a storyboard artist who worked in the animation industry here in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Australia. I immigrated to America around the beginning of 2010. I got a bachelor's degree in animation. I've done a 380-page graphic novel that I self-published and I sold out of. And I am now here today to promote my new project, which is called Forsaking God.
Oh, awesome. Now, speaking of, so you came over to Australia. I'm sorry that you're here. It's a horrible place. Welcome to the United States.
Hey, well, look,
you weren't disappointed.
I will say this.
Like movies.
I will say this. Australia is a place where nothing happens, but America is very exciting. So, in more ways than one.
Exactly. So you're a storyboard artist. What can you tell us some of the things you've worked on?
Yeah, so I did storyboards on Ben 10, Ultimate Alien. I did freelance boards on Steven Universe and BM Puppy Cat. I did storyboards on a DC animated direct-to-DVD, I guess, movie that I guess they still do them, called Justice League Adventures Trapped in Time. I did, what else did I do? I worked on Nico and the Sword of Light. I've worked on Gravity Falls. I've worked on, a whole bunch of small, little knickknacks here and there.
Those aren't that small. A lot of those are very popular. What got you into animation?
Well, when I was really young and I was growing up in Australia and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, I wasn't quite sure. And one day this movie called Akira came out. You guys know about it? Maybe you've heard of it?
Yeah, maybe.
So I saw that and it blew away my little young mind, and I was like, oh, I want to do something cool like that. And that sort of set me down this dark and sordid path of working in animation and telling stories and becoming an artist and not realizing what I was getting myself into. And from there I studied animation at a university that was I think in a major city of where I grew up. And got my bachelor's degree and went from working on Australia's first 3D animated television show to then not liking it, and then going to work as a 3D environment artist at a video game company. And then I think the 2008 financial crash happened, and then the whole industry in Australia was flooded with all these highly skilled workers. And so I was like, screw it. I'm going to go to America and follow my passion, which is animation. So, yeah.
Now, were you, so obviously, you're on the show to talk about a comic that you've done, graphic novel. Were you always into comics, or was it always more focused on animation?
I would say a little bit of both. I guess if I want to really talk about it on a more of a bigger scale, I'd say I'm more interested in telling really interesting stories. Just stories that resonate with people, maybe get across a complex philosophical message of some sort. Maybe talk about things that remind us as humans of who we are as a species, that kind of stuff, like really deep stuff. Because it's important for culture that stuff like that gets made. Well, and maybe it's just, maybe any contributions I make might not ever reach the light of day, but or significance, but at least maybe I can make a small contribution in some way.
That's cool, man. Now, you also mentioned that you did a graphic novel that sold out prior to this campaign. Now, is that a completely different book, or is this tailing off of that, or is this the same book?
Oh, it's a completely different book. So the graphic novel in question was a 380-page graphic novel called Bikini Cowboy. And I had approached a lot of American publishers at the time when I'd finished it about publishing it. And of course, they all turned it down. Because it
doesn't like cowboys and bikinis.
I know, but I mean, it's like that's the whole thing. It's like you see it on the front and you wonder, like, why is this such a thick book? And then you read it and you realize it's got this insane story inside it. But of course, a lot of the the editors that I would show it to couldn't get past the first page or the opening title. So I was like, screw it. So I just published it myself. Sold it at like small press shows and stuff like that. And I think I printed like 500 copies and I sold out of all of them. So yeah.
So is that unavailable now?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you can find it on Comixology, and all the kids who don't value my work have pirated it. Is that a real word? Pirated it. Yeah, they've pirated it to complete oblivion. They stole it. They steal my work continually.
I mean, like, hypothetically, if they were to steal it, where would you even steal it from? Hypothetically, put a link in the
well, I mean, Comixology is great, but even they have gaps in their I guess DRM. So it is what it is.
So now the campaign that we're going to be talking about tonight for Forsaking Gods, is this your first crowdfunding campaign? Technically,
this is my fourth, but it's my first successful one because we are funded now as of this show. So yeah,
incredible. So this is your first successful out of 4.
Yes, correct.
About time. Fresherluke. About freaking time.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I don't before when I mentioned all the shows that I worked on, you said they were all quite well-known shows, but I'm not very well-known. So it's been very hard. It's been a struggle to try to reach that gap in some way.
Yeah. There's one thing I would like to ask though, before we start diving into your campaign.
Sure.
Because we do have guests that come on. They're like, yeah, I went to film school. I was doing independent films and this and that, and they adapted script writing to comic book writing, and they found they had this easy transition, from storyboarding. Like, actually, we've had quite a few. Even like Dan, if you know Dan Fraga, I mean, another storyboard artist. I mean, there's actually quite a few storyboard artists that like to delve into the comic book world. Some even started off in the comic book world, then went to storyboarding because it's kind of that storytelling.
Sure.
You're still basically doing it in panels.
That's correct. Yes.
Was there an easy transition for you, or were you having to research on making a comic when you actually made kind of that transition?
Well, I mean, I'd always made comics ever since I was a little kid, just because, I had 2 older brothers who were complete nerds, and they collected all kinds of stuff, everything from all the old Marvel stories whose names now escape my mind as I'm put on the spot. But yeah,
Spider
like.
Man.
Well, I mean, they collected the. I
Sheep.
remember they had the old Eric Larson
Yeah.
run on Spider-Man where he takes
Mhm.
on the Sinister Six, which was crazy. There was the whole Mark Silvestri Wolverine run and the Marv Wolfman run on that. Yeah, they had a lot of all these long boxes of all these great comics, and so I would sort of sneak into their rooms and read them. And I was always, when you're a kid and you're reading it, it's like, oh, these are fantastic. What is this? You're amazed by them. And so I wanted to try to, I guess, capture that or sort of like emulate that in some strange way, which I guess, kids do. That's how they learn. They learn through emulation.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I'd always sort of always been making comics since I could draw, basically. I think one of the first ones I made was an Afterlife Western called Gravestone or something. It was like really badly drawn, but I printed it out on photocopy paper, and so it's probably like completely disintegrated right now. But I think it was like 6 issues or something, and yeah, that was probably my first foray into doing that kind of stuff. But in regards to sort of bridging that to storyboarding, I didn't have to study how to learn to do comics. I had to study how to learn to do storyboarding, because even though they do look similar, they are two very different kinds of fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different rule set in a lot of ways, storyboarding as opposed to comics.
Yeah. Are you still currently storyboarding, or have you fully transitioned to trying to do all comics?
Well, I mean, I've been blacklisted by the animation industry, which I'm pretty sure you understand, why, given the current climate going on in Hollywood right now. I haven't done any storyboarding in quite a while.
So there isn't only blacklisting in comics, there's blacklisting in animation as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been on RJ's Critical Blast cast and Literature Devils stream talking about that issue. I mean, maybe if we want to do a different show about it, I'm happy to talk about it then. But for now,
let's focus.
Yeah.
Let's focus on Forsaking God. That's what we're here for. But I would love to dive into that on another show.
That's
probably a whole show on its own, right?
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms, man.
And then we get blacklisted from animation.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, yeah, the long and short of it is the long and short of it is that I used to be the #1 storyboard artist, and now I'm not anymore because of, let's say, petty ideological reasons.
Yeah,
lack of a better term. So anyway, Forsaken God.
Yeah,
Forsaken Gods. So let's take a look at this now. So you have Forsaken Gods on Indiegogo. You are now funded. You have 23 days to go. Congratulations on being funded. A fantasy world ravaged by war, a young woman must discover the secret behind the greatest weapon.
Yes.
Let's get into Forsaken. What is this book about?
So Forsaken Gods, as you can obviously tell by the tagline, it's this story set in this realm called Epic Earth. And in this realm, centuries ago, there was this great war between the gods as they all battled against each other. And they created all these different powerful weapons in order to enact that war. And once the war was over and all the remaining gods who survived went back to their domains, they sealed up all these weapons in all of these dungeons and crypts and so forth, so that the mortals who were left behind wouldn't be able to, I guess, gain access to them and use those weapons for more nefarious purposes. And so anyway, the story actually takes place hundreds of years after that, and it focuses on a young woman named Samara. And she's an archaeologist in this fantasy world, and she's trying to figure out or piece together what happened during the war, why the war happened. And in a way, archaeologists are kind of like forensic scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, when she discovers stuff, the reader discovers things along with her. And there's lots of revelations in that regard that I have planned for future issues. And so anyway, she goes into one of these dungeons, and she brings along these 2 hired goons, and the whole expedition goes sideways, and her entire party gets killed. She escapes, but she gets lost in the dungeon. And as she's trying to find a way out, she inadvertently awakens the other main character, which you can see here, a floating magical skull encased in armor called Skull Knight. And Skull Knight is duty-bound to follow Samara and do what she says because she's the one that awoke him. But the thing is, Skull Knight can't actually communicate. He can only scream. And initially, she thinks that Skull Knight is trying to kill her, when in fact he's trying to help her. And basically everything after this first issue is going to be about how she has to deal with the fact that this giant monstrosity is following her around everywhere and how it affects her whole life. And also the larger implications is that because Skull Knight is now reawoken, a lot of the remaining gods see him as a threat to their remaining power. So they are going to be sending a lot of insane monsters and other kinds of knights to try and either capture or kill Skull Knight and also Samara by extension. And so she has to try and not only contend with that, but also figure out who and what Skull Knight is and how he became the way he is.
That's cool, man. I love I love Skull Knight. That's such an awesome design.
Thank you.
What inspired him?
A lot of things. On other streams I've been on where I've been talking about him and they've asked me that question, they said, oh, I can see Ghost Rider and Iron Giant and all these other things. And that is sort of true. Like, I was inspired. Like, Iron Giant is one of my most favorite films that I've seen ever, right? It's so inspirational. And, I love Ghost Rider and stuff like that. But the main thing that sort of inspired Skull Knight was the mythology of the Dullahan. Do you know about the Dullahan?
No, please explain.
So the Dullahan, probably the most famous example of the Dullahan is the Headless Horseman. And so the Dullahan is a Celtic, I guess, cryptid where it's this undead individual who has their head missing, and they're always trying to search for their head, right? They're always drawn to wherever the head is. And the other thing about the Dullahan is whoever possesses the head can also command the Dullahan to do whatever they wish. And so part of Skull Knight's, I guess, role in the war is as a Dullahan, you could take his head. Let's say you had a castle that needed to be sieged, but you didn't have time to wait them out and starve them out. So you could just take Skull Knight's head, put it on a catapult, shoot it over the wall, and his giant armored hulking body would just crash through the wall trying to reclaim his head. And so that's sort of one aspect of how he was sort of used as a weapon of war. And it's sort of the jumping off point when I was coming up with him in the first place.
Cool, man.
Was that adequate?
Yeah, that was adequate. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So with your project,
yeah,
how long did this take from initial concept all the way through to beginning of your campaign?
Dang, that's a really good question because I didn't document any of that. That's
okay. We don't need exact dates, but hey, and that's what we do here on Crowdfunding Comics.
Well, I'm going to say it took years because, when I first came up with Skull Knight, I didn't even know who he was at the time. It's just I kind of drew him based on this idea of the Dullahan. And so I just was like, I'm going to do my own version of him. And then over time and development, I kept coming up with adding to Skull Knight's story. And then I started drawing other characters next to Skull Knight and sort of like, I guess, formulating a story from that until eventually I came up with sort of like the big idea that I have for it now. So I would say probably the earliest was probably 2018. That's when I started sort of developing it fully. And then I think I tried to do a crowdfund in 2019 and for Forsaken Gods the first time, and that failed. And so then I thought, I made a lot of mistakes with that campaign, and so now I'm trying to sort of like learn from those mistakes as well in this campaign.
Awesome. What do you think was the pitfall from the first time that you tried to run this?
Good question. I would say...
Yeah, I didn't want them to ask me that.
No, this question is off limits. Dang. I mean, there were a lot of pitfalls.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go through a list. One was I didn't really offer value for money in regards to sort of the rewards that I was offering.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was that I'm still relatively unknown in the world. Like, I don't have any notoriety like, say, someone like Fragger or John Malin.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I'm generally a pretty private person, which is why you can probably guess why I'm not showing my face on camera right now.
Yep.
And that's
not you.
It is me, but it's not me.
Amazing cheekbones.
Tell me about your workouts.
How do you do it?
It's called the undead workout. And so part of that is like I'm a very private person, so I'm not really too comfortable putting myself out there the same way those guys like Fragger and Malin do. So that's another pitfall, or I guess a disadvantage. The other one is that I've probably got most people have $10 worth of brain energy, and so they can do a comic book and promote a comic book at the same time. I've got about $5 worth of energy. And so what I've decided to spend that $5 on is to try to make the best possible book I can.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I mean, even if it doesn't do well, at least the people who back it are going to get an absolutely amazing book.
Yeah. Now, when you come on here, you've got your perks, right? But it looks like, is there only 2 perks here?
So a bit of backstory about this campaign. I did streamline the perks. Originally, the first iterations of these perks were kind of like incentives for people to come on board and back the project, and they were a lot cheaper. As this campaign has progressed and I've gone on other streams of people have kind of given me advice, I've kind of learned things. So the feature tier is $22, but if you like click in it and go into it and sort of claim the perk, you get all of these add-on perks, which I just found out about, which are great. And so I've even though there's only these 2 perks, the physical and the digital, if in the physical perk you also get other great add-ons, so in a way you can almost design your own perk. And I wanted to give that, I guess, that power or that choice to the backers. So if they wanted to get some original art, they can do that. If they want to get 2 pieces of original art, they can do that. If they want to get a piece of original art, an acrylic standee, and an extra trading card, they can do that as well. Or if they just want to get one of all of those, that's great also. So yeah,
that's cool. I mean, you see some of these campaigns, and even like people doing it for the first time, right? I mean, they have this laundry list of different pledge levels. And personally, my theory is don't start off big. Don't go with all the crazy covers. Don't do this. Do a campaign. Have a great product. Fulfill it on time. Right. It doesn't have to make you money. It needs to build up a trusted relationship because you are direct to consumer. Like you're it. That's it. It's you. You screw up. You don't deliver on time. These people, you may only get 75% of your original backers from your first successful one. I think what you're doing here is like great.
Thank you.
It's short. It's sweet. It's to the point. If they want a little more, you'll give them a little more. If they don't, then they're going to get this. You got 2 options, and fulfillment should be easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the plan. One of the things that I learned in the previous campaigns was, and this is actually scientifically true, like if you give people too much choice, then it becomes overwhelming for them, and they just don't end up choosing at all. And so in streamlining sort of my my perks this way, it's like well, do you want to go low budget or you want to go sort of high budget and get the full thing? And of course, the digital perk there is this is another thing I should point out. For this campaign, I'm not shipping overseas. I'm only shipping locally to the US. Yeah. Just because from a lot of the advice, once again, that I've gotten, like shipping overseas is a headache, a massive headache. Yeah. And so this digital book here is not only for people who, you know, I understand things are financially tight right now, given the way everything's going, but also for international backers. And I do have international fans who still want a great book, but for now, I just cannot. I cannot expand the shipping to overseas at this moment. So
now, how are you looking on the December 2020 release?
Yeah, no, it's looking good. The book is, I think it's about halfway done, or at least 2/5 done. But I mean, I'm plugging through it. It's probably going to get done pretty quickly within probably the next month or so. Yeah, I think it's all looking on. It's going to be on track.
Now, is this a one-shot book, or is this gonna? What are your plans after this campaign?
Good question. I would like to do more books. I guess it really depends on the feedback that I get when the book comes out. If people like it and they want to read more, then I definitely would want to do more issues for them. Eventually, my big goal, my pie in the sky goal, is that I would actually like to, I guess, devote or focus more of my time on doing like full, complete graphic novels. But that's just me, having done a 380-page graphic novel previously. I just like doing graphic novels. I think it's easier for me to sort of, I guess, make a more coherent and satisfying story that way. But I also understand that people like to have sort of like smaller installments as well. So,
yeah.
Cool.
And you know, before we head out from this interview, I mean, I have to ask you, for anyone out there that's going to be watching this, checking out this campaign, that you are funded now. You're at 154 backers. You have 23 days left to go as of 9:31 p.m. on August 7th, 2020, Eastern Daylight Time. But check out that link in the description of the show. But I mean, so now I just said all that right, and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what I was getting at now. Isn't that great?
It sounded like it was going to be really important.
And it is important because, boom, now I'm catching you off guard. Why should people buy this book?
Because you're going to get an amazing book with great story and fantastic art done by a professional with over 20 years experience in the animation and entertainment industry.
But are you coloring it too?
I am.
That's a no-brainer then. It looks great. Fresherluke. I mean, this book looks awesome. I'll definitely be adding it into my backer queue.
Thank you.
I mean, 60 pages. I love the concept. I love the design so far. Everything looks amazing. So I mean, that's it. You're solely working on this book yourself?
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, look, I would love to get other people to help me color it because I don't want to color this thing, but I can't afford to, so I got to do it myself, and that's just the way it is.
That's great, dude. This is amazing. I love the way this looks. Now, will you be offering up some more previews throughout the updates of any more completed work of the book?
Yeah, well, I'm probably planning on doing that through the update page on the campaign, and also I'll probably be posting like maybe a panel or two there as I go through it on my Twitter at Fresherluke. I think, we're at 154 backers. I would like to hit maybe 200 backers at some point, or at least 180. And I think we can do it in 23 days.
Oh, definitely. Now, and after you complete the campaign, do you plan on running this through in demand, or in 23 days? Is that it?
Good question. This is my first successful campaign. So I'm kind of taking it one day at a time. I think I will put it on in demand. I think it will be in demand.
I think that's smart. Keep selling it while you're working on it, and then do your final count when you're ready to fulfill.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So
Well, Fresherluke, thanks for coming on the show. We'll talk to you about doing another show with the other topic we were previously discussing at the beginning of the interview. And yeah, man, good luck with everything. This book looks amazing. We'll continue to push it through our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and see if we can help you hit that 200 in the 23 days that are left.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. This is a fantastic show, and I had a really great time.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you.
You too.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.